Orchot Tzadikim. הנשמה נבראת ממקום רוח הקודש. היפך באפם נשמת חיים. The soul is created from holy place. As it says, he breathed into his nostrils, souls of life. And where does it come from? It comes כיסא הכבוד. ואין למעלה במקום קודשי קודשים שקר, אלא הכל אמת. It was from a place of truth. Our soul was from a place of truth. The seal of God is truth. והשם אלוקים אמת. Yirmiyah says, Hashem, God is truth. So therefore what? It says that leodicha shekadosh baruch hu elokim emet. Therefore, a person has to be sticky to the truth. When you stick to the truth, you're godly. When you stick to sheker, you're not godly. He says ki timtza ki chaf alef pa'amim eke gematria emet. 20 times, 21 times. The gematria of 21 times eke is 441. 441 is going to be emet. So you see, Hashem's name is also emet. God made us to be straight. Kohelet says. חותמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא אמת. כשאדם עוסק באמת, אז אין השקר דבק לאמת, כשיש אמת כביכול, מכל שבטו בשמיים כנגד באדם. It says, the speaker of falsehood will not be established before my eyes. When one occupies himself with truth, falsehood has no room to grab. Does not cleave to truth. When there's truth, it's as if the throne in heaven is suspended over people. Hashem's Shekhinah is with us. For when there's truth in people, they acknowledge that Hashem made the sky and the earth, and the seas and everything is in the... What's Avodah Zarah? Avodah Zarah is sheker. It's a lie. And it says that this... I broke the stick off the tree and I bowed to it. This stick created me. What are you talking about? It's sheker, it's lies. So therefore, a person has to know that the biggest step to believing in Hashem is being emet. Or he said, Rabbi Chanan said many times, why do people not see the emet? The emet is easy to see. The question is, you don't want to see. Because you rather live a lie, and that way you can fulfill your desires instead of being emed and calling a spade and saying, I realize that my life is not in my control, it's Hashem runs it. But you have to have a zechut to be able to stick to the emet. מישהו זוכה להתבונן דברים האלו, איך הנשמות נחצבות ממקור האמת, יעשה כל עניינו באמת. Whoever realizes, you have the zechut to realize Hashem is your creator, then you'll be able to stick to the truth and be able to embrace the truth, B'ezrat Hashem. זה עניין יעסיק אדם כשהוא מתבודד בחדרו. That only happens if a person is able to be mitboded. What does mitboded mean? Mitboded means to seclude himself and to separate himself from others. There's this whole discussion about Balei Musar, very, very deeply discussed about a person's bechira. What does it really have bechira, to have free will? The person says, well, I could, I took a taxi, I could hire Uber, or I could get a yellow cab. So I made a choice. It's not really a choice. That's really a very simple choice, but the question is, when you make a choice, when it's your Yetzer Tov Yetzer Hara, that's where you really express your free will, if you really are in control or not, right? Dessler says that each person has a different nekudah of bechira. What's nekudah? The point of bechira. Like example, a person is raised in a society that it's very normal to steal. Let's say he was raised in such a society. So the fact that he stole, right? That's normal. And the fact that he didn't steal, he went against the grain. That's not the real nekudah bechira. Right? But a person who was raised in a place where you don't steal, it's not normal to steal. And then you pass by somebody's stuff and you didn't steal it. Okay, that's not really bechirai. Okay, of course I'm not going to steal it. I didn't have to fight myself. I didn't have to really convince myself not to steal. Of course I don't steal. Nobody steals. Who steals? What are we talking about? But for another person who grew up in a place like that, so it was very hard not to steal. It was a very big challenge. He had to really use bechira not to go and steal. So you see, everyone's bechira is different, and a person has to check inside of himself. If you did you establish in yourself bechira? Some people just follow what everybody else is doing. There's a concept of midilei, from being someone who is coming from within and making conscious decisions versus a person who's just going with the flow and doing what everybody else does and didn't really think for himself. So therefore, a person who wants to stick to the truth, says the Orchot Tzadikim, he has to know how to be mitboded. Mitboded means separate himself from the crowd, not do what everybody else is doing. Establish in himself a real form of free will and choice and make the right decisions based on what's good for him, not because of what everybody else does. If you don't have that, you're just a guy who is not a deep thinker and just doing what everybody else does and knows what everybody else says. So then you're not really a person who's a spring, gushing forth from within. It's a person who's just it's like a ball you throw at a wall. It just bounces back whatever you throw at it, right? A person who doesn't gain his own bechira, he's like a wall. Whatever stimuli you throw at him, he reacts to it, and that's it. It's not because he's consciously deciding where to go. He's just reacting to other things around him, and that's a very low level that a person has to overcome in order to be able to stick to the truth. If you're not a person who worked on his bechira, you're like that wall that just bounces stuff off of him. It's going to be very hard for you to stick to the truth. You're going to be saying, but everybody else, but everybody else, but everybody else. And therefore, you're just going to react like everybody else reacts. But if a person wants to stick to the truth, he has to be mitboded, he has to separate himself, he has to learn how to make conscious decisions, he has to really be a deep thinker, and he has to be able to realize, I can't do what everybody else does. I need to do what's good for me. I need to follow the Torah's way, stick to the truth. When he does that, when he's able to be his own person, if you notice, a big test is when you go in the car with somebody, you're sitting with somebody in a room, and you feel awkward that you're not talking. Sometimes you go in a car and you talk about the weather, and you talk about the politics, you talk about the weather again. You're trying to make conversation because you feel it's awkward if you don't speak. And why does it have to be that way? Because that person feels that if there's nothing to react to, there's no stimuli going on, I have nothing of myself. I only react, I only live because I react. But if there's nothing going on, I'm dead. I feel like I'm dead. I feel like it's awkward. Something has to be happening. Why are we not talking? Let's talk about the weather again. But a person who is in his own mind, he makes his own decisions, he does not dependent on other people. He's a person who could sit and learn. He's a person who could sit and be in his own thoughts, and he's not dependent on others. So even if we don't say anything, it's okay. What's going to happen if we don't say anything? I'm still living because I'm living for myself, not living for other people. So therefore, for him to sit in the car silently is not awkward. It's not a big deal. He can be in his thoughts, no problem. Problem is, a lot of people are not deep thinkers like that. A lot of people need to have stuff going on for them to feel alive. If nothing's going on, they feel like, okay, there's no life. And that means that he wasn't mitboded, and he's not on the level of having his own bechira, his own point of free will. You don't have really free will. You just depend on others. So therefore, he says, person should only keep himself in company of others if there's a great need. But if he doesn't need that, then he should be comfortable being himself, being with himself. Right? He says if one prays by moving his lips and faces the wall, but thinking of his affairs, calling to him with his tongue, but his heart is occupied with household matters, it's also sheker. It says the prophet says that to the people, to the Jewish people, he rebuked them. He said, your lips are serving God, but your heart is far from Him. Right? What does it mean really to pray? People could come and say in lip service, and I just showed Hashem a show, and really my heart and my mind were somewhere else. And a person has to know. We say every day very special words. We say to Hashem, we love Hashem, and we accept His Torah. He gave us His Torah with love, and we're going to commit to do the mitzvot. These are big statements we're making every single day, and we have to make sure it's not lies, and we have to make sure that we're focusing on what we're saying. But focus is very hard to focus. There's a million distractions. So put away your phone. Don't use your phone during davening. Sit in a seat where you don't sit with people who talk. And get a book that you know how to read, and it translates for you, and you prepare in advance. You study a little bit of the Sidur's words every day, 5 minutes. That way you know what the tefillah is talking about. Set yourself up for success, and that way you'll be able to say it. But if a person says, I prayed, I checked the box. I read all the words from the beginning to the end. I was there for an hour. I went to the nets. I did it. You see, Hashem, I was there. Where's the parnasah? Where's the bracha? Where's the atzlacha? Hashem says, this sheker, it's lying. What do you think? You think I need you to stand and make me blah, blah, blah for an hour? I don't need that. I need your heart. I need your mind. I need you to feel real. I need it to be real. And that's going to be Amen. Don't start a story over here. Will end. The story over here bring of someone who said goodbye to his rabbi one Monday morning. He was going to leave a 3-day business trip. So what happened was that when he came back Thursday, the rabbi welcomed him back, and I asked him about his trip. The next evening after Tefillah, the Shabbat, everybody lined up to say to the rabbi, good Shabbat Shalom. So when he came to the rabbi, he said, Shabbat Shalom, welcome back. How was the trip? He says, but Rabbi, you already asked me yesterday. I came back Thursday. You said hello to me. You asked me how my trip was. He says, I was watching you during davening tonight. You were somebody else, somewhere else. So therefore, I'm welcoming you back again. Because during your tefillah, you went to business, you went to Miami, you went to here. Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back. So therefore, a person has to realize we cannot be like that. Rather, we have to realize, forget where you are now, and be so close to Hashem like you're in Shamayim, the Shulchan Aruch says, and not think that Hashem is here and you're somewhere else. Shalom Baruch.